Secrets of the Fender AB763 amps. The AB763 amps are all the Fenders from the 60s that have reverb. There are a couple of models that have reverb that have the exact same circuit that have some other designations than AB763, but the Twin, the Super, the Deluxe, the Vibrolux, etc., all have the same basic preamp. The power sections change. There's some other things like the Twin has mids pots on both channels. The Super Reverb only has a mids pot on the vibrato channel. The Deluxe Reverb doesn't have a bright switch, the other models do. But the crucial difference that affects most the sound of the preamp is the mids. And on a Twin Reverb, both channels. On a Super Reverb, the vibrato channel, there is a mids pot. And on a Deluxe Reverb, there is no mids pot. On Super Reverb, normal channel, there is no mids pot. In the amps without a mids pot, there's a fixed 6.8K resistor. In the amps which have a mids pot, there's a 10K pot. But it is an audio taper pot. So if you are playing a Twin or a Super through the vibrato channel, like this one, most people turn that to about 5 or noon. So this one's set exactly midway through its rotation, so 5.5 on the front. And it actually measures 1.117. Now that's going to vary from pot to pot, but it's going to be in the 1 to 2K range typically. And that's the amount of mids you have on a Super Reverb or Twin Reverb with the knob set to the middle. To get the sound of the Deluxe Reverb with the 6.8K, let's turn this up, and I'm watching my meter. Just a slight bit more. Sorry, it's hard to tweak this just right, because it's an audio taper pot, so I'm in the range where it accelerates, but I've got it right at 6.8 exactly. And that corresponds to having this at 8.5. 8.5 makes your Twin sound like an 80-watt Deluxe Reverb. Well, you can reverse that process on the Deluxe Reverb reissues where I add a mids pot. I actually add 100K, which means it's a 10% tolerance pot. 10% taper pot rather. So at noon, it's at 10K, which is the max this gives. This actually maxes out at 9.6K because it's a variation in the pot. So on the ones I do, from 0 to noon gives you the full range of the Twin. And on those pots, about 10 o'clock is 6.8K, which is pretty close to what you get here at 8.5. But if you want to get the sound of this at noon, which is, let's say 1.1K, you turn that down to about 9 o'clock on the pot that I add. So, or even a little bit lower, say 8:30. So you can make the Deluxe Reverb sound like a Twin, or sound like itself, or you can go to noon to really dime out the vintage range, or you can go over noon, which begins to defeat the tone stack, and you get an overall mids boost, and the tone stack insertion loss goes away. You get more gain. But I think it's something that most people don't know, that this Twin at noon is at 1.2K basically. Let's call it 1.2K. And that's where most people use it, somewhere around there. Some guys turn it down a little bit more. At 4, it's at 757 ohms compared to the 6.8K in a Deluxe Reverb. So the Deluxe Reverb has a lot more mids, and it has a 1x12 open back cabinet, often with an Oxford speaker, or the new ones say a C12K, and those are very mid-range focused boxy speakers to begin with, and a 1x12 wants to be boxy. Not as much as a 1x10, but still, the whole thing is trying to sound very boxy, and that 6.8K adds to that. And Fender did that very intentionally, because if you own a Deluxe Reverb, and you played your buddy's Pro or your buddy's Twin, Fender wanted you to then go out and buy the Pro or Twin because it sounded better. But that's kind of an artificial thing. If you have a stock deluxe reverb and you wish it sounded more like a Twin, you can play around with changing out that 6.8K resistor. In the old ones, it just goes from this point on the bass pot to the chassis. On the newer ones, it's a resistor on a little PCB that's a 6.8. And if you have the one that's on the PCB or the one that's in there, you can just put a new resistor in parallel across it to get that. It's an easy way to dial in the mids on a deluxe reverb to get it sounding wherever you like it. And that's an easy thing to experiment with if you have fairly basic soldering ability, as long as you make sure that the amp is powered off and discharged. You know, I don't want you zapping yourself trying to change out, customize the mids. But that's a big part of the sound of the Twin versus the sound of the deluxe reverb. Just the resistance from this point in the circuit, because in the Twin it goes through a wire to here, and ground.